Hello again. I'm going to put this video in a couple of folders, one of them about sporrans and the other about tailoring for the larger gentleman, the gentleman of full habit, the person of majestic stature. Here we have a kilt, because for whatever reason, it's, I'll check my horoscope, but all of a sudden I'm getting requests for alterations and kilts made new for quite majestic, gentlemen of quite majestic figures, shall we say. And this chap is a 55-inch waist. I have two kilts to alter, which are incredibly too big for a fellow with a 58, 59-inch waist, and another over there, which I made notes, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Now, these figures, they all have one thing in common, and it's very, very difficult to fit for, in that their waist measurement is greater than their hip measurement. So we don't have, well, we do have a section of the cone, but it's inverse. And that creates a problem with how to make the kilt stay on, because it's not resting on the hips. And the solution is pretty much you either cinch it so very tight that it's not comfortable, and that even that's not going to hold it in position for long, forever, or to suspend it somehow. And in this case, this fellow's coming for a fitting in a week or so. As you can see, I've attached buttons for braces, what Americans call suspenders. And that's the center of the back. I'm going to put two buttons on the right hip of the inside apron and two buttons on the left-hand hip, the left-hand side of the outer apron. But these buttons are going to be inside, because we're going to have to wear braces with us. Now, there is one other option, one that I have done in the past, and that is to sew buttons to the shirt, to the person's shirt, in the required places, and then a strip, sort of a pocket-shaped buttonhole, a buttonhole sewn into a piece of heavy cloth and then sewn to the inside of the kilt. And I'm not doing it in this case because I really have to get a lot better at sewing buttonholes. They're a mess to look at, and I'm not proud of them. So yeah, the use of buttoned braces, because the braces that just clamp on are worthless, because if you sit down or you squat or you put it under too much tension, there's a gwanging noise and the thing takes off like a rocket and maybe puts somebody's eye out. But yeah, but the solution is braces. But braces, look, they're not a good fashion look with a kilt, particularly with the gentleman of a fuller figure. So the camouflage there is to wear a waistcoat or a waistcoat, what Americans call a vest, over the shirt. So with the waistcoat in place, you can't tell, you're not revealing your shame that I'm joking, but nobody can see that you actually have to use braces to hold your kilt up. There we go. Now the next thing about the gentleman with majestic stature is the size of the sporran. This is a friend's sporran, and I'd cut him a strap to fit. Now let's take a look, because he featured in an earlier video of mine. But I cut him a strap to fit, and that one's a 56, so I think he's maybe a 48-inch waist or something like that. But the thing about it was, when the size of the sporran, when he's wearing this thing, when he's wearing his kilt, and it's standing next to him, it's like standing next to a tartan wall, right? He's a big lad, tremendous figure, big lad. But the sporran, it looks like a little change purse in front of him, because it just seems so small. It's dwarfed against this expansive tartan. So I'd recently altered a kilt for an international gentleman, and I've just cut a sporran strap for him, and I don't have them here, but I'd laid out all of the buckles that I have been able to find at the local leather store. I have another project involving that's not it. Another project involving custom sporran buckles based on an antique in my collection, which I'll talk about later. But because I bought these. These are for a 1 inch wide strap, and I got them in that's chromed brass, polished solid brass with an antique finish, and brass with a black finish. They're quite attractive, but they're a bit big on a more slender person. And on me, I consider myself in this context as one of the more slender people. But I sent him all the pictures, and he says, "No, that's perfect." So I've cut him a sporran strap, which is, well, it's a 1/4 inch wider. It's a full inch wide. These things are usually 3/4 of an inch. But I think we're onto something here, because by increasing the proportions of the bling, the sporran strap, I think it's not a slimming effect, but it's more proportional to the size of the figure, instead of a narrow sporran strap, which just looks like a streak, right? So there's this 1 inch sporran strap for him, which is better part of 6 feet. So that's going to go into the mail to him tomorrow. But that also brings up the question of sporrans. And I'm not I'm not even pretending that this is the only course of action, or that you should follow this advice. But it is something to think of. It's something to think about when tailoring and when dressing the larger man, is that the size of the sporran I think it has a tremendous effect, because that looks like a change purse on him. This is an antique sporran from the Great War. Maclean's Kilties, does that make sense? One of the Canadian Expeditionary Force battalions. It has provenance to a soldier in that battalion. I'll look at his name later. But it's a bit bigger, and for a larger gentleman, I think it's more in proportion. My old British Army Jacobite cantle sporran, which I'd, for a while there, I was getting L&M to make leather pouches with snaps, right? Because the original ones were white leather and brass. Well, still brass, but you could unsnap the thing so the soldier could pipe clay the leather and thus get chalk all over his kilt about 2 minutes into wearing it, and also polish the brass without cross-contamination. And I used to buy these things, and I used to have friends looking out for me in car boot sales throughout the UK, because these came into production for the, these were rushed into production actually for the coronation in '53, because the British Empire had basically bankrupted itself, literally bankrupted itself, to defeat to win the war. So this is the best they could do, and these were made in what is now Pakistan. I've found what might be the original company, or at least the perpetuator, the survivor, the inheritor of that company. So I've got some of these coming. Let's see what they look like. But that's a bit bigger too, and it's a bolder statement. And then I really have to change my what I'd said about hair sporrans on the website, because if you've got a good-looking antique, I just think the modern ones are gunge. You know, chrome does not belong on the human body. And apparently it no longer belongs on cars. It's all plastic. Anyhow, so when I get dressed up, which presumably I will sometime again, I have an old Swinging Six, an old Argyle sporran, and I have no connection with the Argyles. My folk came from nowhere near Argyllshire, or Sutherland for that matter. We're all elsewhere. But it looks really good against my kilts, and I continue to wear it. I've been gifted a hair sporran of the 78th Highlanders. This is a repro made by L&M for the 78th at the Citadel, and it's a museum quality replica of those that were worn by the 78th and later 2nd Battalion Seaforth Highlanders of the British Army, and also the 17th Battalion in Nova Scotia. And brilliant, but I'm no longer an army piper. I'm going to find somebody to gift this to, because it's gorgeous, but it's not something I'm going to wear. And lastly, my old Seaforth officer's sporran, the body made by Janet Eagleton, MBE, and this was part of the trials of the new kit for the new Royal Regiment of Scotland at the time. And this is one made by her, and I married it to this Seaforth officer's cantle, which I wore for the last, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years I served with the regiment. So, and that's something that I will wear with a clear conscience, because I was a valued and contributive, made a powerful contribution in time and effort and skill to that regiment over 43 years. And I can wear that with a clear conscience, because that's part of my heritage and history. So there we go. The size of the sporran is something to consider. The quality of the sporran is always paramount. Quality over crap every time. But the size of the sporran is something to consider when tailoring to the respective size of the gentleman. And also think about a wider sporran-strap for the very big amongst us. There you go. I'm going to get that into a box. I'm going to get ready for this fellow to come for his kilt, and I'm going to get back to work. Take care. Oof.